Hey everyone, welcome to Joystick Lab, and in this part of our tutorial we're going to keep working on our IKEA AR clone app. Today we're going to discuss how to use addressables to load the assets into our app. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing as we discuss many AR and game dev concepts with practical examples. So without further ado, let's get started. So last time what we did was basically we had this data manager where we can load all these assets through the resources, right? And the assets will be automatically loaded up when we load or when you run the game. Now that is all good, but basically if you add the assets into a resource folder, that is again going to be inside your app. So next time if you want to add some new furniture into your app, you need to upload a new version of your application, right? And every time you do any changes based on a new furniture, if you are trying to add a new furniture, that is going to be a new app version, which might be tricky because your user might not update the app regularly. So that might be a little bit bad experience for the user. So one way of solving this issue is to use addressables. So addressables is a way to load your assets in the beginning of your in the like when the app is loading for the first time. You load all the assets into your project, so the assets will not be there initially in your project. So this also helps you to make sure that the app size is not that much big. So that helps a lot. And there is a lot of other reasons of why we should use addressables. I'm not going to go that detail for now. So the first thing that we need to do to make it work is to install the packages. So to do that, go to Window, Package Manager, and from here click on this All Packages. And based on which version you are using, this might be different. There might be some option for Unity registry if you are using some upper version. So I think you can figure that out. Just look for the addressables when you find the option. So basically we are going to look for all packages and then addressables, and I have already installed it into my project, so it's not showing me anything. So what I'm going to do is like I'm interested in like update it to the latest version, so let's do that. So you guys can expand this and you'll see there is an option which is going to give you this number, like this version for 1.16.15. Again, based on which version you are using and when you are watching this video, this can be different, but I always prefer to use the latest version, although this version is verified. So it's up to you which one you want to use. I have tested it with 1.16, so I know that works. Anyway, so yeah, after you are done installing the package, the next thing that we need to do is we need to grab these items out of our resources folder, right? So when we are dealing with addressables, the items cannot be inside resources folder because resources folder has a specific meaning in Unity, so you cannot use that as an addressable. So I'm going to basically create a new folder, and I'm going to name it as addressable assets, and I'm going to drag and drop this in there. Awesome. Now let's start by making all these things as an addressable. So when you select all of them, when you basically select any game object from your project window, any asset basically from your project window, you can see this option now called addressable. So it's going to ask you that if this asset is indeed an addressable or not. So it is an addressable, so I'm going to click on that. That will add this thing into the list of addressable, and you can see the link here, right? Anyways, so to make them into a group, so basically what the idea here is that we're going to keep them in a group, right? So when we are searching for those assets, we can simply use that particular keyword or token or whatever to find those particular items in a particular group, right? So we're going to put all these things into a same group. Now to do that, we need to go to window, then asset manager, asset management, addressables, and I'm going to click on groups. All right, so when you come in here, you can find out this thing, this panel, and I prefer to put them somewhere in my screen so I can edit them when I need to. And yeah, the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to create a new group. You can click on here, group, and you can click on packed asset, and in here I am going to name it as models. This is not necessary, you don't have to do it, but I'm just doing it anyway. And I'm going to drag all of them into this group, right? So yeah, so I just want to keep things organized from the start, like when this project, if this project becomes really big, if you want to have particular groups for particular addressables, then things can get messy, so it's a good idea to always keep them in a group. All right, if you click on the models, you can see there is some option here. We're going to come here shortly, but as you can see, there is two option, build and load path. Currently it's just looking for local build path, but we are going to use Google Cloud to load our assets. So we need to make this like remote in a few moments, but um, let's not care about that for now. The next option is really important. So there is a option called can change post release, right? So the idea here is that, well, some of the models or some of the assets in our addressables, maybe we we might change them later on. For example, the furniture might be outdated. Maybe we want to replace that furniture with something brand new, right? Or maybe we need to change the color of the furniture. We can do a lot of stuff. So if you have that into your mind, then you need to make sure that the update restriction, there's two options, can change post release and cannot change post release, right? So if you check can change post release, that means even after publishing this app into whichever platform you want to like publish on, then later on, if you want to change these assets into your app, you're allowed to do that through your cloud, right? If the other one is selected, that means you're not allowed. These are basically static, or this should not be changed at all based on whichever version you build next up in your publishing period of time. So yeah, currently we are going to only use can change post release. So make sure you have that selected. Next up, we need to create a labels. Like I said, we are going to have some key which we are going to use to find out that these are the assets that we want to load, right? So I'm going to name it as furnitures. All right, and I am going to check this for all of them. All right, so yeah, that's kind of doing well. So let's do some coding, and then we're going to do this remote thing in a while. So the script that we want to change is the data handler. So previously we used this data handler to manage all our assets through the resources folder. Now we are just going to change that, and we're going to use it, use the addressable to load our assets, right? Yeah, so the first thing that we need is to include the addressables. There is addressable assets, I think. Here. Next, we have this, which is good. Basically we need to create a method first here. So this method is going to be responsible for getting the yeah so this method is going to be responsible for getting the assets from the cloud. All right, so yeah, we need to import some namespace, right? Threading.task. Okay, next up we are going to basically look for the locations from where we want to load the assets. So there is a static method in the addressables class which basically loads all the resources based on its location. So we're going to use load resource locations async. If you are not that much familiar with async, you don't have to, but basically this is a alternative way of enumeration, right? So in some of my tutorial I plan to introduce this concept, but if you want to learn more about it, I'm going to like leave some links in the description. You can look into those links and see if that helps. For now you don't have to know that, but basically this is going to be a task that we are going to asynchronously do when we are trying to load these locations using this label. Now again, these labels are basically going to be furniture for us, right? So we are going to go there shortly. Let's create a new label here actually. So we are going to use public string, or maybe do private, private string label, and we can use that later on. Anyways, so yeah, now when this thing is done, if this thing is basically done, then we are going to get a array of locations, right? You see the type here is ilist, right? So basically we're going to get a list of addresses that we can work on. Because this is a async operation, so this has to be called using await, right? um, and we also need to make this a async for method so that the error is not there. So that means the next line will not be executed unless we get all these locations. All right, so that is what await means. So keep awaiting, keep waiting until these things are done. All right, so now we can create a for each loop and we can go through each of the location, and basically we can create a object from here using the location. So there is another method called load asset async, and we want to basically, the idea, again, I'm just going to take a pause here, go back to Unity. The idea is to load uh, these guys, right? So they are the type of item. If you remember the class item, those are basically the addressables for the class item, right? So that means we want to load the asset of type item, right? That's the idea. So let's do that, and we need to pass a location, I think this location, right? So we are again loading the asset based on its location, and we are passing this generic type of item. So that means we are looking for the asset item dot task. Again, we want this to be a async operation, so I'm going to make it await, and after that we are going to do items dot add, and then the object. Awesome, that's it. See, there's only like 4 or 5 lines of code. That's it. That's all we need. Now we need to call this function somewhere, so let's do it in the start when the game is starting, right? So in here, when we were loading the items from the resource folder, we don't need that anymore. We can get rid of that. I'm going to comment this out, and in here we are going to basically wait for getting all the asset which has a label of whatever we are looking for, right? You can see there is an error because we need to make this method as async. That's good. And then we have the regular method to create those buttons. All right, so again, based on whichever asset you have in your addressable cloud, this is going to load them, add them into the items, and then create the buttons accordingly, right? So we don't need to create any buttons whatsoever. We just need to, after we are done building this app, uploading to our app store or whatever, then we can just keep uploading our assets, and the app will be grab those values uh, whenever the user starts the app. So that's pretty big deal, right? So that's a really awesome way of managing all your assets. All right, so um, yeah, I think the next thing that we need to do is let's divide this tutorial into two parts. This is already long, so let's stop this part right in here. And I'm going to see you in the next part where we can actually like connect this local addressables with our Google Cloud. I'll show you how you can grab a free Google Cloud account and how you can manage your assets from there. All right, so yeah, if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, and hit the bell icon so whenever the new tutorials come, you can get a notification. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.